có quyền mình đi chọn cái
Okay, welcome everybody to our very last lecture. It's been a long semester, kind of odd for everybody, and I'm sure difficult for everyone, but I can definitely say that we've seen a lot of great projects this morning. So I'm very excited about this lecture today. It's kind of one of my favorite parts of this, because we can show you what each of you all did or what the best teams did. And it's inspiring to see like how far everybody has come and what you've learned. This TED lecture today will have two parts. First, best projects, and then I'll do a review and kind of like a bit of a feedback and discussion and so on. But I don't expect this to go the full hour and a half. So we'll probably be done somewhere around like 1 or 1:15. Okay, so let's get started with best projects. First, how does this work? Like, how do we pick the best project? We have like a 2-hour long meeting where like first TAs like got up early this morning, looked at all of your submissions, and then looked through their batch and nominated the best 4 to 5 of their projects. And in this meeting, then we we watch all of these videos for these best 4 or 5 for each of the TAs. So we watch about 20 videos, and then we play with all the tools, we discuss them, and then eventually we decide which ones get like selected to this batch of the best projects. And for the top 3 projects, each staff member cast 3 votes for his favorite projects, and then the based on like how many votes each of the projects gets, it gets picked as like the winner or a runner-up, or is among the nominated projects. And this year we have 1 first place and 2 runner-ups or runners-up. And these 3 projects get 120% of the points for the final project. So that's A, a big honor, and B, it's also like very good for your grade. And then we have 6 honorable mentions, which get 110% of their points. And all of those will be listed on the Hall of Fame on the website. So before I start, any questions about the process? How exciting. Well, okay, let's get started. The honorable mentions, and I should say there's no particular order in which I'm presenting them here. The first one is Clinical Profiling in Colon Cancer of Utah Population by Sejong Byun and Hyo-yeon Park. Okay, let's look at their video. I'm not hearing sound. Can you all hear sound?
No.
No.
Okay. Something about the sharing. Okay.
One of the world's most significant resource of in-depth information, supporting research on genetics, epidemiology, and demographic and public health. Therefore, we mainly visualize the interaction among plots and tables to help viewers explore a relationship between polyp size and other biological and family-related factors. For the visualization, we use the 7 Utah population families, which are a total of 198 subjects. Here, as you see the main screen, there are 3 elements. First, the density plot shows polygenic risk score of 7 families based on the subject density frequency. For example, when we click the K4562 and K7647 kinder ID, K7647 tends to have a higher polygenic risk score than the other one. This gives the user to understand the polygenic information. The density plot gives an overall idea of genetic information for families, and then the heat map shows each subject SMP genotype data. The y-axis shows the 30 SMP IDs known for colorectal cancer, and the x-axis represents each subject. The red color represents homozygous, non-reference, the green represents heterozygous, and the blue represents homozygous reference. Lastly, the table on the main screen shows the multivariate information. Once you click the row in the table, it is interactively shown in the heat map to represent the SMP genotype. Also, the user can see the description, the average of each clinical multivariate by mouse hovering. We are able to sort each column to see which subdeck has the highest or lowest clinical information. User can see the exact value by mouse hovering. In the second screen, we have the polyp information to understand colorectal cancer better. The first column matches the color of the first screen. When you click the row, the user can easily see the polyp location and the type by color and the size.
Okay, well, congratulations. Great. Our next project is Premier League Season Explorer by Brian Eisner, Kevin Wood, Jacob Johnson. Congrats.
Hi, welcome to the Premier League Season Explorer. In this visualization, our goal was to display every single game of an entire season of the English Premier League. To start off, we've got our bump chart, which shows the placement on the table versus the week throughout the season. Users can brush here on the x-axis to display just games from, say, the post-lockdown period. If you click on the circles here, you can see they're highlighted up here as well as down below. You can also click here to change as well. That breaks it out into the game detail view. Here we can see when goals were scored and by who through color coding. If we clear this, we can look at trends throughout the season of teams. This lets us see easily through highlighting which teams are what the team's performance trends throughout the season. You can also change the y-axis here on the bump chart, so we can, for example, see that Liverpool nearly scored the maximum possible number of points and had a dominant season. Finally, we've got storytelling, which shows the story of a season through icons on the x-axis. Here, Tottenham fired a coach in the first half of the season and hired a new manager for the second half.
Okay. The next project is Mamba Mentality, shot selection by Marko Miholijic and Jordan Hendrickson. Congratulations.
So you'd like to learn more about the Mamba Mentality shot selection visualization? You've come to the right place. First, you will be greeted with our landing page, a part of Nike's tribute to Kobe, and two options. Clicking shot selection will take you to a heat map displaying all the shots from Kobe's career, playoffs on the left and regular season on the right. From here you have several options. The first of which is to choose a player from a drop-down, including all of the All-Stars starters from 2020, as well as Stephen Curry and Devin Booker. Once you select a player, the heat map will update with their shot data on the left side of the map. From there, you can further refine the data you're visualizing by either filtering by playoffs, filtering by year, or a combination of the two. Once you have decided on some data that is of interest to you, you can further delve into this either by looking at individual bins from that location or by selecting a region. Selecting a region while filtering by year will pull up a tooltip style display showing the year, the field goal percentage, the number of shots attempted, and the number of shots made for both players from that region. However, if you'd like a larger overview of this, you can also select a region while viewing the player's entire career, which will pull up a bar chart showing how their field goal percentage from that region has evolved over time. You can also mix and match this bar chart display with the tooltip style display by selecting after filtering by year for only a single player. After you spend some time exploring the data, you can click the buzzer beater button in the bottom left corner. Pressing this button will allow you to cycle through 8 of Kobe's game-winning buzzer beaters, providing their location, context, and a video of the shot for you to watch.
2 seconds, 1 second, Kobe pump fake, Kobe for the win!
From here, you can click the reset to default button to begin exploring the data again.
Okay, congratulations. The next honorable mention is Avalanche Explorer by Joachim Meyer and Abhishek Krishnan. Congrats.
The Utah Avalanche Forecaster site is a go-to destination in the winter for backcountry skier. Each day, the Forecast Center publishes a report about current conditions and publishes it as a row seen right here. This project turns its rows into an interactive map. When the user first arrives on that page, he sees the danger overlaid on the entire Salt Lake Mountain range. If he's now interested for more specifics, he can filter these by an aspect, say north, or go to a specific elevation band, say below 8,000 feet. In addition to these two combinations, he can also go specifically to an individual aspect and elevation band by clicking on the rows. Each time when the selection is made, the opacity changes for that area to be more bright. Now that I know, for instance, I want to ski in this area, I can zoom into this map and get more details there. I can now also place a marker, say I want to ski this face right here, and get the conditions right there. Here we see we have between the 8,000 and 9,500 feet level, have considered forecast danger, and also face south at a slope angle of 6 degrees. This project used historic data to also enable a holistic view of the whole month. Every day is marked in the top left corner with the highest danger and the lowest danger in the bottom right. So this gives an overview of how the danger level developed over time. Once I want to reset my filter, I simply click outside the map. If I want to get more information on, say, the 18th of the month, I can now also go to the forecasting archive and see the current condition there, or forecast it. Last but not least, I can also get daily observation reports by backcountry skiers specific to that date as well.
Okay, congrats. The next honorable mention is visualization of metagenomic data by Leanne Lindsay, Kimberly Trong, and Lourdes Valdez. Congrats.
Welcome to our metagenomic data visualization tool. This tool was designed to help researchers explore metagenomic data, which gives information on the microorganisms that are present in a biological sample and the abundances of all genes and gene pathways that are present. Our tool allows a user to explore different aspects of this dataset, such as the evolutionary relationship between the species found in all samples, species abundance per sample, and information on gene pathways and function. In the phylogenetic tree view, the user is able to see the evolutionary relationship between the species found in all the samples. The user is first presented with all phyla classified across the samples. Clicking on a node will expand a branch, revealing further taxonomic divisions, and clicking again will collapse it. On the right, the user can see a stacked bar chart displaying abundances according to a specific level of classification across all samples. As a tree expands its depth, the stacked bar chart will update abundances according to the deepest level of classification that the user is in. Nodes at the deepest level are colored to match the corresponding bars in the stacked bar chart. Mousing over a bar highlights that species in every sample so that you can see the differences easily. Mousing over the species name on the legend will fade it out, clicking on it will remove it, and clicking again will make it reappear. Selecting the sunburst view allows the user to see the different species present within one selected host sample. You can choose which sample to look at by clicking on the sample name in the bar chart labels. Here, we can clearly see that monarch has more species diversity compared to non-monarch. For more information, you can hover over one of the rings which represents taxonomic level or click on it. The lower section of the visualization shows a subset of genes in the samples. The bottom left has a heat map which offers a user two options, either to look at genes in the samples or gene pathways. If you are interested in more information about a gene, you can click on it and it will update the violin plot. Here, you can see the differential expression between the two groups of interest and more detail on mouse over. Clicking on the Save button creates a link that will take the user to an online reference database containing more information about the selected gene.
Yeah, congrats again. Now, our next runner-up is World Language Database by Andreas Martinson, Jana Luke, and Rachel Bergot. Congratulations.
Hello, everyone. This is our visualization that shows U.S. languages across the United States from using some census data from 2009 to 2013. So this first visualization are showing the different language groups. Here on the bottom left, you can see what the language groups are. And if you hover over each one, you'll see a tooltip with the number of speakers, the language group, and the language subgroup. As we scroll down, you can see the next map visualization where you can see the data for the individual states. The first visual was showing the data aggregated to the nationwide level. If you click on each of these, it will go ahead and populate the states with the information, and you'll see the card on the bottom left. When you hover over it, has the number of speakers and different information like that. You can also, if you want to see multiple languages, you can use the brush to select them, and then for each of the individual points, you can hover over them and they will change size. If you wanted to aggregate that information, let's say you want to see English and Spanish together, you can just toggle the switch here and then select both English and Spanish. Moving on to the next visualization, it's a bar chart, so you can easily sort the bar chart to see different information. We have some links here on the side for interesting facts that we wanted to point out to the user of the visualization. Going on to the next one, we can see which speakers speak English the best out of the foreign language speakers. You can click on each bar and it will expand, and then you can double click to go up a level. We also have the option to sort, and you can go back home in this visualization as well. If you scroll down to our last visualization, you'll see how languages have changed over time. You can see either in numbers or percentages, and you can click on each one and interact with that visualization. That's all that we have for our visualization. Hopefully you can find the tool insightful and useful. Thank you.
Congrats again. Congratulations again. Okay. Now we're coming to our first runner-up, which is Visualizing US Fires 2020 by Taos Transu and Hui Tran and Troy Seltiel. Congratulations.
Our visualization explores current and historical wildfire data in the United States. Wildfires have become a hot topic in the news this year. So, has the 2020 season been a particularly bad season? How about historically? We start with a visualization of the 2020 wildfire season in the United States. The story is introduced, quick fact scorecards are displayed, then the user can explore the data. If the user is not sure where to begin, an information button can be clicked to guide through the visualization. The map displays wildfire points encoded by color, black to red. If the user zooms further than 50 kilometers, the data will update with polygons. The bar chart is a coordinated view that shows in-depth information. The user can change the dataset between area burned, structures destroyed, and suppression cost. The user can click on a wildfire's bar, point, or polygon, and the map will update to the fire's extent. To reset the extent, the user can click the Home button. The data can also be filtered by cause, such as lightning, and the full statistics can be viewed by hovering over the fire's bar. Next, we explore historical wildfire data in California. First visualization shows the top 20 wildfires in the past century, color-coded by time periods. The viewer can quickly see that the largest fires have occurred recently, and they can also hover to view more details. The second and third visualizations are coordinated and begin with the entire state of California. The viewer can hover over the donut chart for more details on how the two climate periods compare. We can see that there's been a substantial increase in wildfires in the recent climate period. Finally, the user can select counties on the map. The map will update with the extent of that county, and the donut chart will update with its data. We can see that in most counties there has been an increase in fires over the period. The visualization concludes with a scatter plot of the national annual total fires and the acres burned since 1983. The user can select either number of fires or total acres burned to highlight each data set. With the trend line as an aid, it is clear there is no trend in the total number of fires, while the acres burned are increasing by about 175,000 acres a year. In conclusion, our visualization provides an intuitive way to learn more about the current wildfire season and historical wildfire trends. It's clear that fires are burning more area over time, and that the 2020 season was not an off year, but part of this trend.
Okay, so we thought that this was one of the top 3 projects because it had so much information, so many different facets, really excellent storytelling, consistently good visual encodings, and so we were very impressed with this project. Moving on to the second runner-up is Voice, Visualization of the Online Encyclopedia of Integer Sequences by David Miller, Jinyang Chen, and Jiawen Song. And let's look at that video. Congrats.
Hello and welcome to the Voice Project, where we try to learn about integer sequences through visualization. So you're greeted with the global view, which plots sequences against Sloan's gap. Here we see the sequences plotted and highlighted with regards to Sloan's gap. Here we could see the upper and band distributions of each sequence. If you don't know which sequence to pick, you could always choose from our presets we've selected for you. Or if you're interested in learning about interesting facts, we've developed a story for you here. Next view is the local view, which compares sequences against each other. So again, I'll pick the prime numbers, Fibonacci, and highlight composite. Here we see Fibonacci sort of grows too fast for the others, so we could change it to a logarithmic scale, which better suits it. We could also see here that Fibonacci converges to phi, the golden ratio, which we all know. The bottom here describes modulo base n distributions, which you could choose from mod base 2 to mod base 16. And if you're interested in more to see how sort of they stack up against each other, you could turn it into a histogram and see how the distribution lines up this way. Lastly, we have the fixed view, which compares sort of numbers within the OEIS against each other. So here we see 2 and its neighbor statistics. Here we see that 2 appears at index 2 a lot of times. You can pick many other things to see the persistent neighbors of the numbers. So here we have 496 and its persistent neighbors. You could also see the neighbor distribution to get a better idea of where the neighbors are coming from. If there's numbers or sequences you don't that you're interested in and we haven't selected, you could simply search it up and we'll return it to you. Same thing with a sequence. You could just look up a sequence list there and we return the top 10 results. And if you know something descriptive about it, you could also type in the string and we return the top results for that as well. If you want to learn more about the project, you could click here.
Okay, so we really love this project. There's so much going on there, so many really cool visualizations, visual representations, a super interesting data set, blazing fast and very like evocative animations, lots of different facets, so and very custom visualization. So we thought that was really clearly one of the top 3 projects. So congrats again. And then finally, we have our overall winner. Number 1 is Pokedata by Sunny Su and Kailin Huang. Congratulations. Let's look at the video.
Hi, welcome to Pokedata, an exploration tool for learning about Pokemon. Pokedata shows an overview of all Pokemon with the ability to compare distributions while also enabling a deep dive into a specific Pokemon to see how they stack up. To start, here's the info card, which is useful for viewing one specific Pokemon. Here we can see the name, ID, stats, and evolution chart. The stats will animate from one selection to the next to give the user an implicit feel of how one Pokemon compares to the next as they browse. To give a feel of how strong a selected Pokemon is, we have box plots to show how one Pokemon stats compare to the rest. The box plots show the total distribution of all Pokemon by default. For a high-level overview, we have the table and the scatter plot. The table can be sorted and is filterable by Pokemon type, stat, name, and whether they are a legendary Pokemon. When the table is filtered, the scatter plot and stats distribution are also affected. The scatter plot reflects the table by only showing the filtered Pokemon, while the box plot shows new statistical distributions. Now the scatter plot allows users to examine stat relations based on 3 customizable axes. Selecting a point here will be reflected in the table and info card. Intuitively, if a row is selected in the table, the scatter plot will highlight that corresponding Pokemon as well. If we scroll down, we have the type relations section. Pokemon is like a very complex game of rock, paper, scissors. For instance, water types are strong against fire types, but weak against grass types. To visualize the many type relations, we have an arc plot. When highlighting over a specific type, we can see what that type is strong against, weak against, and has no effect against.
Okay, we liked this project because it had like really cool custom visualizations. It had lots of interesting different facets. It integrated all the different graphics very well, and honestly, it was super polished. There's like, this looks like a professionally done website, right? It has like the layout, the graphic design, the visualizations, all of them just came together in addition to the storytelling. And so we thought that this is kind of like a deserving best project. So congrats to all of the winners. It was a really great set of projects, and I'm very excited about that. Yeah, this is a little bit anticlimactic. Usually we have like people standing up and everybody applauding. So maybe let's just do like a quick round of applause, like just either hit the button or do actually applaud for all of the winners and nominees. Thanks, everyone. Great. So we'll put this in the website, and we'll add the videos and the links to the tools whenever it's possible. If you're in this list and don't want to be in the website, just shoot me an email and we can leave you off. Great. So next, I want to do a little bit of a recap of the stuff that we learned in this semester. It's been a long semester, and I think it's useful to think a little bit back where we started. Like, first, remember we have these 3 course components. We try to like teach you about theory, develop coding skills, and develop design skills, visualization design skills with like these different course components: lectures, readings, discussion for theory, labs, reading, self-study, and office hours for coding skills, and design critiques and designs that we're doing in these activities for the design skills. Really, this design critiquing and redesign is kind of a central part of this class. Like, we've done like many of them, probably around 15 or 20, and it's very like useful, I think, to reflect on what is good about a visualization, what is bad about a visualization, what can we do better, how can we redesign this, and try to come up with a couple of different solutions. For programming, we talked about like we kind of like really used the web stack. We did like HTML5, JavaScript development, and of course we used the D3 library extensively. And I'm sure that by now many of you consider themselves like pretty skilled with all of these technologies. In terms of topics, we started out at the very beginning with perception, right? Where we talked about color blindness, pop-out effects, gestalt effects, and so on. All of these kind of like perceptual phenomena that are important to understand for designing visualizations. Then we started talking about data and marks and channels. Like, what are the different data types and how can we encode them? We kind of came up like we came up with this ranking, or we developed this ranking of channels by how useful they are, how powerful they are, how effective they are. We talked about like for quantitative channels, we have like position on a common scale being the most powerful, and then followed by all of these others. And for categorical attribute, we have spatial region, hue, motion, and shape. Then we spent like quite a bit of time looking at these design guidelines. Like, what are some kind of like alternative designs to things like pie charts? What are the like pros and cons of using embellishments in charts? What are some kind of like rules about how to create your axis? How should you label things, and so on? And what should you not do? Definitely don't do 3D pie charts. We talked about interaction. Like, interaction is such an important tool in visualization. You can reveal so much more information. You can kind of like dig in and bring up additional aspects. You can like do details on demand. You can do interactive queries and filters so that you can kind of like people hone in on what you're interested in. And we looked at all of these different modalities. We continue talking about multiple views. Really, multiple views is about bridging between different visualizations so that we can kind of like get the best out of either a different visualization technique or look at different facets of a data set. We talked about linked highlighting, same data, different views, different data. And then we talked about small multiples where you have kind of like the same layout, but then something encoded on top of it. And about partitioning. Remember, like these tree maps that you can, of London, for example, that you can facet by various different attributes. When we talked about tabular data, we talked about like, well, there's some techniques that you can use without any algorithmic support, like parallel coordinates or scatterplot matrices, whereas others like multidimensional scaling are really all about like doing some pre-computation on the data and then representing that. And then in the middle, you have these kinds of techniques that benefit from algorithms like pixel-based visualizations such as heat maps, where you would use clustering to create an ordering. We talked about maps. The one big lesson about maps is, well, sometimes you don't actually need a map, right? And so sometimes it's easier to visualize even geospatial data in a non-map context. But if we have to use a map, then we now know like exactly what to do. So for example, if we do a world map, we definitely don't want to use a Mercator projection, right, because it distorts the global south negatively, and it kind of like at these very extremes, like Greenland, for example, it's just like overblown. We talked about choropleth maps, proportional symbol maps, cartograms, and all of these kinds of different techniques to show data on top of a map. Then we had like a 2.5 lectures on networks and multivariate networks. The three main techniques here were the explicit layouts, where you have nodes and links and show them, and we had algorithms such as force-directed layouts to create them. We talked about adjacency matrices that show the edges between two nodes by filling in a cell. And then we talked about implicit layouts such as sunbursts or tree maps or icicle plots that are good at showing trees and properties about the trees. Then in one of the last lectures, we talked about filtering and aggregating. How can we eliminate uninteresting items? How can we group similar items? Clustering is a big deal here. We talked about a few different clustering algorithms and what their implications are for visualizations, how we can interact with these clusters. We talked about Voronoi diagrams and how they are useful. And then finally, we talked a little bit about dimensionality reduction and how it can be used for visualization. And then finally, in the very last lecture, we talked about set and text visualization. And we had this very long exercise that was the bonus, where you were like developing your own set visualization for properties of Simpsons characters. Okay. Oh yeah, we also talked about storytelling that wasn't quite in order. Like, how do we tell a story with a visualization? How do we do this kind of data-driven journalism? I mentioned that these, like for news sites, interactive data stories are now a major kind of like attention getter. Like the most visited stories for like many major news platforms are now interactive data stories. So this is something that's here to stay, that we're all using daily. And it's also like a great place to like learn about visualization and to analyze them. We talked about design methods, like how can we design visualizations with, from like a more structured approach, where we kind of like interleave design and evaluation using Munster's nested model, or also like talked a little bit about some things like parallel design. And then we talked a little bit about how can we evaluate our visualization techniques at which different levels and so on. So that kind of ends my recap. Of course, we covered much more, but that was roughly the outline of the stuff that we did. I want to kind of highlight some, like, if you enjoy what we did in this course, some opportunities, either like along the lines of visualization or more broadly in human-centered computing. So there's a few classes, if this is your first Viz class, that you could take if you care about this topic. First, there's the visualization seminar, CS7 7942, that has been on hiatus this semester because it's just like tricky to do during a pandemic. But I'm expecting this to come back, if not next semester, definitely in the fall again. There is an advanced data visualization course that's usually taught by Bei Wang. It's CS6956. And these are kind of like deep dives into certain topics, including like topological data analysis and visualization, how that intersects with TDA, all the networks, and so on. And then there's the class, the kind of sister class to this class here is visualization for scientific data, CS 6636, and this is all about 3D spatial data that is either from simulations or from kind of like medical imaging, things like brain scans, CT scans, or fluid flow simulations or combustion simulations, and so on. And so that is a little bit more like this. I think the class is taught like more along like a classical graphics pipeline. So you would use C++ mostly, and some standard scientific visualization toolkits like VTK in the projects there. And if you really liked what you were doing, if you really enjoyed your project and want to get a little bit deeper, you can also consider doing like an independent study with somebody in our group, like either Mariah Meyer or myself. If you're interested in, look at our research website that lists the kind of stuff that we care about. And we're always like excited to work with like undergraduate or graduate students that have an interest in that. We have different topics available, and so reach out to me if this is something that you're interested in. More broadly, I think of visualization really as kind of like in between data science and human computer interaction. It's kind of part of both. And I'm sure that many of you are like aware of our data track, but our human-centered computing track is like not completely new, but it's only 3 years old. So I just wanted to highlight that if you're interested in these kinds of things, the track gives you like a broad overview of everything that's related to human-centered computing. There's like an HCI class, there is an advanced HCI class, there's a statistics and research design class. You can take a lot of classes, actually, more than most other degrees from outside the department, things like introductions to research design or ethnographic methods and so on. There's been a bit of an issue because of the pandemic of teaching all of the relevant classes for that degree, especially advanced HCI hasn't been offered this year because we had to pool our resources to get our big classes covered. But I'm very hopeful that we will be getting back on track by offering all of these different classes. Okay, so now I want to kind of like ask for feedback. Kinds of question like, were your expectations met? What else would you have liked to learn about? Did you feel prepared? Are the prerequisites appropriate? Was it too much work? Was it too easy? Was there too little programming, too much programming? Did you like the tools we used, like JS and D3? Did you enjoy the project? Did you think the exam was kind of fair the way it was? How did we deal with the whole online situation and COVID? Any of these questions. So I'm happy to take comments in the chat, or you can just speak up. I'll turn off my screen share and we can kind of like have full screen. If you want to turn on your video, you can do that. And yeah, I'm totally like interested in what you think.
I guess one thing that I really like the class overall. I guess one thing that I do wish you would have learned was maybe a little bit of visualization using R, because it seems like a lot of jobs really want like R experience for data visualization. But overall, I really enjoyed the class. So.
Okay, thanks.
One thing that stood out to me was for the theoretical aspect, and I would have liked to learn a lot more there. This is coming also from the perspective that I have a lot more experience programming. So, it's kind of easier for me to kind of get into the groove of getting to learn a D3 library or something like that. But it's kind of more interesting to me to say, okay, what are the fundamentals you should watch out for and really keep in mind before you actually get to the part of, typing something up. So, but overall, I also appreciate all the time you invested here, and I think we did the best out of the current situations, and thank you very much.
Thank you.
I have a comment on the first point where we wanted to learn to visualize in R. The first, maybe fifth of data visualization for data imaging, or what's the class called, Alex?
Intro data science?
No, it's like the scientific visualization. That's what it is.
Okay.
Sorry.
Yeah.
So yeah, about the first quarter of that to like 20% of that is visualization in Python using matplotlib, and then also using what's the word I'm looking for? Like, I can't remember the names of the libraries, but basically you can kind of make them interactive in Jupyter notebooks and stuff like that. So
Altair or Altair?
No, I can't. It was just like, it's pretty simple stuff. I mean, basically you can just like change a filter, change a threshold, stuff like that. But yeah, it's kind of so if that's something you're interested in, there it is covered partly in that other class.
Cool. Check it out, maybe. Thanks.
I should also say, if you like, this isn't really irrelevant for computer science students, but if you're not a computer science student, I'm teaching an introduction to data science class where we it's really like about all aspects of data science, from wrangling to machine learning, but there's also some visualization, and this is all taught in Python. So we teach some of these components in that class. But as I said, it's an elective course for non-CS students, so like probably not all that relevant for most people here.
What class was that again?
Introduction Data Science. It's a Comp 5360.
Okay, thanks.
I see some like too much workload, otherwise perfect. Yeah, it's kind of tricky, right? It's like, I have to say, also from my personal experience, getting like into D3 can be a lot of work, and I appreciate that this isn't always easy. So I'm sorry if it's a little bit heavy on the workload, but I hope that we can see that the projects were really cool and we saw that it paid off, hopefully. Like more tutorials, like you mean by tutorials, you mean things like the labs or kind of written tutorials?
Yeah, I mean the labs, like the labs that the TAs did right before each problem set at the beginning. I feel like maybe more of those at the beginning of the semester would have helped us get up to speed better.
Yeah, okay, that's a good point. Thank you.
I really liked working in D3. It's like every time I get more into web development, I learn something new, and D3 was one of those this semester.
Yeah. Thanks. Any other, like, we'll be teaching another semester online. Any comments about the online format? Do you prefer this like live versus like pre-recorded flipped classroom model? Any thoughts on that?
I really liked that you had it on YouTube as well. Most of my professors don't do that, but I really appreciated that. That was something like in case like I missed something earlier in the Zoom lecture, I can pull up another tab with like YouTube and go and pull back and watch that for 2 seconds to hear what you said.
I think it's perfect the way it is. Like it's live, but then if people have to miss it, they have the option to watch it on YouTube. So I think it's perfect in that regard.
Great. There's been some comments about getting more content, such as other languages. It would have been nice to get some more exposure to something besides D3. Yeah, like, so one thing that I'm always struggling with is, should we teach more technical stuff, right? Like, do we want to maybe get a little bit into data management with a server? for example, that we can deal with larger data sets, or do we want to teach other language or other libraries? Like, for example, Vega is a popular library nowadays on the web. And we've kind of like decided not to do that so far because we just don't want to make this like a completely technical course. But we are consistently evaluating whether this is something we want to do.
I don't know if it's an option, but could there be kind of a two-part course with this, where you say, hey, here's the first technical part and here's a more theoretical part? I guess that puts it over 2 semesters, but...
Yeah, I would love to do that if my chair lets me.
Okay, there's that.
Yes, I think that we have... yeah, we were thinking about offering an undergraduate course. And the undergraduate course would probably be like less technical. And so maybe that will be an option in the future. There's this advanced course that is, I think, like there you don't really talk about technical stuff at all. It's really just like the theory behind it and some additional things. So yeah, maybe if somebody like if it's got to be it's a tough sell for us, unfortunately, to have another Viz course because we already have 3 for just in terms of the department's commitments. But I would love to do that. I hear people like Slack. That's great. I like working with Slack much more than with Canvas, for example. Yeah, David, for like setting up a backend and so on, we might be like there's an undergraduate course. I'm not sure this is helpful for many of you. That's web development, and we are currently revamping our curriculum. There's going to be a new degree for undergraduates, a software development degree. This isn't completely set in stone yet, but there will be like a 2-sequence web dev course. I might actually be teaching one of them, and there we're going to go like deep into both like all of these front-end technologies and things like TypeScript and build systems and then also like how do you deploy, how do you build like a server, how do you do containers and this kind of stuff. Todd is saying that they're found it frustrating to monitor so many websites. Okay. Yeah, that's definitely something we should consider. Like it is fragmented. We have like a website, we have Slack. We barely use Canvas, but yeah, definitely a little bit tricky.
I had a comment just on the website design,
Sure.
and that was that the links were very hard to find sometimes. Like I couldn't find the link for the peer feedback. I had to find it in Slack. You know, that I think that's just a color choice problem.
Yeah, maybe also we could kind of like have a bullet of like the TLDR stuff somewhere at the top.
Yeah.
This is perhaps a question on a different line, but for someone looking to go into like data science for a career, for like picking any, if I had to pick, I only have 1 semester left, like for any, if you had to pick like any grad class you would recommend taking, which grad class would it be?
Well, it depends a little on what you have already taken, right? If you want to have a data science career, you should definitely take the machine learning class in the School of Computing. If you haven't done that yet, that's the one that you should do. I think that's kind of like the bread and butter, right? Even though in practice, there's lots of other stuff that is about data science, but the machine learning one is definitely important.
Awesome, thanks.
Yeah, and Will says it's a brutal class, which is certainly true.
Did you say that the peer assessment thing is on Slack, or where is that?
It's somewhere hidden on the website. I'll put it on Slack again.
Thank you.
Okay, so thanks everyone for the feedback. That was super useful. The other thing that I would love you to do is to go in and fill out the formal evaluation. So there's like you can reach that through your CIS. You should have probably gotten an email I'll also put like a link here in the chat. If you can take 5 minutes to evaluate that class, that is super useful for us, right? We are like, just leave like ratings. This is useful for other students. This is useful for me to learn. Leave comments if you have anything. You can also email me. You can send me a Slack message if you have any other questions. I'm happy to do that, to answer them. The evaluations are important for us because it's part of like what we are being evaluated on, and it will also help us improve the course and our teaching. So if you can do that, that would be great. The last kind of like thing in this class is the final, of course, which will be next Friday, and it's going to be very much like the it's going to be very much like the previous one. So it's going to be like one long big example, and then we'll look at different aspects. We will be covering the whole the topics from throughout the class, so it's not only the second half of the semester, but the questions will possibly focus on the topics that we covered most in the last one. But it's still going to be a design critique, so just expect to get another question about like what are the marks and channels in here and so on. And there's going to be a redesign, and it's going to be like a 24-hour period as before, with kind of the same rules as before. So any questions about the final?
You said it was due on Friday?
I don't exactly know. I'm going to give you a 24-hour period. I don't know exactly when I'll send it out yet, or maybe I know, but I have forgotten it. It's going to, I think what I'll do is I'll send it out Friday at 9 a.m. and then you have to submit it by a Saturday at 9 a.m.
Okay.
I didn't say the last lecture, but the lectures in the second half of the class, because we haven't covered that in the first final or in the first exam. There's no activity today, no. Okay, last but not least, I really want to thank the staff. Devin, Haihan, Zhuzha, and Jeff, they did an amazing job. There was like a lot of grading, as you can imagine, that like they handled completely by themselves. They also taught classes. For some of them, it was the first time they taught classes. They held office hours. Like you probably interacted more with the TAs than you did with me. And so thanks to them. Thanks for their like amazing commitment to this class and to making this a good experience for everyone. And with that, I'll turn off the recording, and I'm happy to kind of like answer any more questions, or if you have any like personal questions about whatever career development or things like that. I'll be doing office hours next Tuesday, and you can also do that.